nearly got it done. And look at this. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, we're looking at Ryan Sieg, and he's currently running fourth. But that's Josh Williams, who was asked, as I told you, to go to the garage for extending the caution. The debris came off his car. He has parked his number 92 at the start-finish line.
This was the lasting image from Atlanta this weekend. What everyone will remember. It's emblematic of driver frustration. And for many, well, they see it as a wake-up call for the track. But I don't see it as that. I see it as maybe the start of a memorable experience. Now, I want to say first and foremost that the Atlanta repave and reconfiguration, to me, was the wrong move. But I think it can work out. I am not a fan of the current racing they have there. I don't think it's as good as Daytona and Talladega, and I think it forces the track into a box it was never meant to be in. But like I said, I think that this can evolve into something else as long as NASCAR and SMI give it the time. If this starts to not work out to be a super speedway the way they want it to be, I don't want SMI to tear this track up the way they did with Texas Motor Speedway and the way they did with Kentucky Speedway. Don't make this track worse, just try to see a natural evolution and see what happens from there. So I want to kind of go through really quick the Atlanta reconfiguration and why I think that this could be the start of a beautiful relationship moving forward and an evolution of a track that has never been seen before. So starting off with the reconfiguration, let's start from the beginning. At first, when we heard it, most, if not everyone that was really in on it or heard about it, thought, what the hell are they thinking? Why would they change this track? Even as worn out as it is, it's amazing to watch the racing. Why not just repave it and try and get this racing back in the future? And many also would bring up a good point that making it a super speedway would not be cutting costs for the teams like NASCAR has pledged to do, as making 2 more super speedways gives 2 more pretty much insured wreck fests a year, and if it's not a wreck fest, we're all shocked. And the track, like I said before, was never meant to be in this box. This is a 1.5 mile quad oval, not a super speedway the way the Daytona and Talladega is. Atlanta Motor Speedway was never meant to have pack racing like this, the same way that Chicagoland or Charlotte or Las Vegas or Kentucky or any other 1.5 mile is. Super speedway racing for the longest time was seen as a safety measure. Yes, those big crashes can be dangerous, but it is safer than a car going 240 miles an hour flipping into the fence and possibly taking out hundreds of spectators. That is the reason it was there. It can be debated whether or not it is or isn't safer, but it's a reason why. This was purely a move for entertainment, and people knew it, especially the drivers. And the drivers were absolutely pissed off about it. The biggest one that I can remember, at least, being Kevin Harvick, who absolutely put NASCAR on blast on the regular. That's kind of how it started out. And then we got to the racing. Now, last year we had 2 races, a 500-miler and a 400-miler, and this year we have a 400-miler and another 400 coming. So 3 races down and 1,300 miles of racing down, and what do we have? Well, to me, we have a track that, at least by the fans' perspective, seems to be more accepted. In 2 of the 3 races so far, Atlanta has seen really big crowds. We haven't got the TV ratings published as of me recording this, but when it came to the TV ratings last year for Atlanta, they went up, especially the spring race, which had a very sizable audience compared to years past. So, in that respect, fans definitely had intrigue about it, and fans at the track, from people I know there, had said that it was the best Atlanta racing that they had had in years, and they loved the new change. So at least from that front, many who were going to the track or drawn to the track really appreciated it and probably will come back for more. But I've noticed on a lot of other fronts that people are starting to accept it more. For instance, last night, as of recording this, I was live on YouTube on this channel, and I ran a poll asking what you guys thought. And I was expecting many to just say they hated it, and then a couple to say they loved it, and then the 2 options in between to be sort of the rest of the pack. But it wasn't like that. Those who really love it were outliers, yes, but those who really hate it were outliers as well. it was those in the middle, those who were saying, well, it's okay, maybe not that great, but it might be able to grow on me, or people who said, yeah, it's actually growing on me. I think it's kind of good. So in that respect, the fans are accepting it. Whether the people like me who aren't crazy about it want that to be the case or not, those seem to be the facts at the moment. And in NASCAR's credit, the racing this past year in 2023 did seem a little bit better in my opinion than 2022. There weren't many crashes, which I really appreciated. There was clean green racing to the finish, which again, very much appreciated. And it did seem like the maneuverability was a little bit better. And I think a lot of that has to do to the quality of the track and the fact that it seems to be aging really quickly. At least it looks like it does. See, I've seen plenty of tracks that have been repaved through the years from all over the country, from Michigan to Daytona to Talladega and everywhere in between. And one thing I noticed about all of those tracks is that the next year that they came to those tracks after a repave, it was still pretty jet black and hadn't had much age, wear, or tear. But this Atlanta track looked a lot more gray than those tracks, and a lot more of wear was given. And you could see it in the Xfinity and truck races as handling was a really, really big factor, and even the Cup guys talked about handling being more of a factor, which is similar to what we saw at Daytona towards the end of its lifespan, and Talladega as well. So something that's a real positive from it as well. But I am more intrigued in what this aging will make it become. What will it become? Well, I think it'll become a mix of many things. First off, I think it'll be a mix of mid-2010s Xfinity and truck Michigan races. Races that had an intermediate feel to them, but a power of drafting that would be a super speedway tactic. See, when those races at Michigan happened, you had to have a fast car to stay up there and you had to have throttle control. You had to have good handling. And if you weren't a fast enough car, you would fall back, get lapped, or just fall away from the faster cars. But the draft was still there enough to keep those in contention around each other and make slingshot moves possible, which is something I think NASCAR would be fine with. And I think that in this sense, it'll be an intermediate super speedway hybrid. Not one or the other, but mixes of both. I also think that the way the high side is coming in, that it may also become a mix of those with some Darlington Raceway added in, with one preferred groove, but the ability to pass if you have a good enough car as well, making it actually go from one of the most talentless tracks to race at in the sense of doing well, to one of the most talent-based tracks possibly in the next couple years, and possibly one of the most fun tracks to go to for drivers at some point. And you add in the fact that if NASCAR makes an engine that is meant to be the horsepower it is instead of being neutered like the current one is, well, throttle control would probably become more of a factor, as that's what the engine was designed for, and would really lend to that factor of driver maneuverability and talent being a factor in the race. And there's a precedent, at least for the track wearing out quickly, and it's, well, this track itself, the previous configuration of Atlanta Motor Speedway. See, that configuration was made in 1997, after years upon years of having the oval mile-and-a-half Atlanta. And I can also understand why many were hesitant to think that that was a good idea, as basically making it a Charlotte clone wasn't necessarily the way many wanted to go with it. And like I said, that repave and reconfiguration happened in 1997. The first real major side-by-side finish with a ton of good side-by-side racing that happened on that surface was Dale Earnhardt versus Bobby Labonte in 2000. That was year 3 on the pavement. Under the current configuration, next year would be year 3 on it. Kevin Harvick versus Jeff Gordon, plus 3 others, making a 5-car battle for the win in 2001 using the whole track, happened in year 4. And Carl Edwards versus Jimmy Johnson in 2005 happened in year 8, when the track was meant to come into its own. And I think in this sense that everywhere in between, many fans loved Atlanta and thought it was great racing. And this also kind of hurts, I will admit, as somebody who wanted the old Atlanta, as I think that there was precedent there, unlike tracks like Auto Club in Michigan, for this track to be really good really quickly. But we can't dwell on the past too much, as it is gone, and I don't think they're digging up this track after the investment they made. So with the racing on track being good with the worn out surface, I think that this could become a reality in the next couple years. My conclusion is this: I think that this track will not be a Daytona or Talladega-esque superspeedway track within the next 3 to 5 years, unless NASCAR slows the cars down to a point that street cars could easily outrun them off the production line. I think that this is going to become a big hybrid track of Daytona, Talladega, Darlington, and Michigan. Maybe it is an amalgamation that is amazing. Maybe it just continues to be a monster never meant to be seen by human eyes. I don't know. We're going to have to see in the future. But with that, I want to ask you now, what do you think the future of Atlanta holds in NASCAR? And do you like what I think it could become? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video and share this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, as we cover NASCAR all the time, and I want you to be a part of it. Also, thank you to my channel members for your continued support, and be sure to watch the NR Cup series on Idk Player's channel. Tomorrow night, we're doing the Nashville Fairgrounds. 7 races left with 19 guys in championship contention, so it should be really fun. And then on Wednesday night, watch the NASCAR Weekly podcast on Black Flags Matters channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk all about Atlanta and probably about the future like this video is, as well as COTA. So, until then, have a good one.